Yes, hello everyone. I'm Julian Kominowski, and I'll try and give you a brief presentation of our work. The topic we are addressing is sources of hazards at tram stops. Our example is the urban infrastructure in Poznań. In Poland today we have 16 tram systems. What's typical for them is different gauge widths, could be 1,000 millimeters, but that's just for some, but for the majority it's the regular gauge. Another characteristics of our tram systems is that they are heavily used because it's about 20 hours a day. As a result, any maintenance or repair works are fairly difficult, and not just when it comes to the trams, but the time to do maintenance is really short. But it also applies to the maintenance needed at tram stops, especially when there are more hazards. One thing to remember is that tram is one of the most important modes of urban public transport, especially when it's quick, reliable, and comfortable and easy to use. A sense of safety for passengers and level of comfort is really important. Passengers feel good when they don't feel that they are at any risk, and that risk also means waiting at a tram stop where they feel safe. Today in the country we have a number of programs designed to improve the level of service and safety for passengers. And it's not just the new vehicles, because cities are now buying new trams, but apart from that there are other investments in infrastructure. And it's not just upgrades, but a lot of times new infrastructure is built. To give you an example, we have Wrocław, Poznań, or Warsaw. In the article, our objective is to explain the hazards which are not involved in building new tram stops. That's already been covered elsewhere. Instead, we want to focus on hazards involved in infrastructure. We've identified 4 types of tram stops as part of Poznań's tram network. We have island stops, we have bay stops, we have integrated stops they are integrated with pavement, and Vienna stops. What's typical for each type is that they are used by high numbers of passengers. They are located at critical points of the city with a lot of passenger traffic. The first group, the hazards we've identified damaged elements of the stop infrastructure, damaged surface, unprotected elements such as sharp edges, uneven edges of the platforms, and deformed surface of the pavement. Next, uneven surface and the use of different materials, and this is quite dangerous for people with limited psychophysical capabilities. This could lead to injuries and accidents, but also a platform like this could be difficult for drainage, damage, and again, this may lead to passenger injuries. Now, access to the tram stop may be problematic, and that's another source of hazard for passengers, and this affects the perceived level of safety. That's the pavement, concrete pavement that's used there. A lot of times it's at varying heights and varying angles, especially for underground passages. The steps may be slippery, or they are slippery as a result of weather conditions. Not to mention poor drainage, plus unlit crossings to stops, or the entries or exits are too narrow, and also passengers crossing tram tracks. And this means that there is no infrastructure in place there to get to the tram stop, especially when they have to cross to tram platforms. Basically, what I mean is that there are no barriers to separate the tracks.
We also deal with damaged elements of the infrastructure. It's worth noting that a damaged element could constitute a much more serious threat than the lack of that element, of that device. We also point out to the lack of roofing on the tram stop in the waiting area. The minimization of the area, which could be, for instance, covered with snow, by providing the roofing, we could also reduce the threat, the accident hazard. And some of the other situations we have also that can be observed in other systems is damaged and broken benches, damaged and broken structures, insufficient distances from the platform to the track. Here, for instance, the distance is smaller than provided for by the construction regulations. Old rolling stock, especially in the context of buying rolling stock, which often is second-hand, coming from other cities. Like the trams in Gdańsk, where very often trams from other countries are bought in. Similar situation can be seen in the city of Poznań and the city of Łódź. In addition, we have insufficient marking for the stops, badly profiled platforms, and non-separated stop platforms that are too close to the driveway and to the cyclists. We believe that a catalogue of potential threats and hazards should help the users, the operators of the infrastructure to use as a guideline to find those elements which need to be changed and repaired and improved first. We also need to consider the best ways to eliminate the threats. It's also going to be serve as a warning to anyone using the infrastructure. At the end of the day, improving safety. Thank you for your attention.